Hi everyone, welcome to Tom's Man Shed. Okay, I'm adding this bit at the beginning because I'd already recorded this whole video and I've added a bit at the end, as you'll see if you get once you get to the end, because it was going to be an entire one-piece video on changing the front pads and the rear pads, brake pads, on the Grinnall Scorpion. As you probably know, the Scorpion uses Ford Sierra gear at the front, disc and caliper and pads, and the original BMW K1100 motorbike pads at the rear, and I was going to do it all as one, but I've realised after just editing part one that it's already 45 minutes long. It contains me usual waffling, as it always does, but I've tried again to make it as intense as possible with every part of the installation shown. So I've put the line underneath, the red timeline, and it's all going to be annotated. So again, you can skip straight to the bits you want to see and eliminate bits you don't. If you want to go straight to the install now, I will put below the exact time and seconds to skip to for that. But hopefully you can stick with the whole video because it shows you the tool set and explains how a piston rewinding tool works. Also, any links to any tool sets or whatever, particularly the Amazon one, I will put below. They will be affiliated links, which means that if you click on that link and buy anything from that browsing session, I get a small commission. It doesn't cost you a penny extra, but I get a few pennies. It helps keep the channel going. So if you're going to buy that tool set, it'd be great if you could click at that link. So as I explained at the end, I hope to catch you for part two as well. I will put a tile. I'm not sure when I'm going to upload them both together or days apart, but either way I'll put a link up here and I'll put a tile at the end to part two, and in part two I'll put a link to this. So without further ado, let's get straight into the bit I'd already recorded. Part one, fitting the front Ford Sierra type disc pads to the Grinnall Scorpion. Okay, this video, review, tutorial, whatever you want to call it, is again on something to do with my kit car, a Grinnall Scorpion. But it will still, hopefully, be of some use for people who've got a Ford Sierra or Granada or Scorpio, a really old one, because it's about swapping the brake pads front and rear. And the kit car, as you probably know, I'll just show you some pictures of it here. So that's the Scorpion that you'll be seeing in this video. As you can see, the front wheels there using Sierra Cosworth discs and pads. That's it with its mudguards on. They're currently away being repaired after pothole damage. That's the back of it. The back is all BMW. As you can see, it's motorcycle exhaust there. You'll probably see it better from this picture. There you can see the shaft drive from the gearbox into the rear wheel, and we'll be renewing the rear pads, as you will see. So as you saw there, the back half uses the standard BMW, the engine, the gearbox and the rear drive off a K-series bike, a BMW K1100. But the front uses various Ford parts, like the ignition is from a Ford Escort Mark II, I think. And the ball joints, I remember renewing them a few years ago, they're off a Fiesta. But the brakes are Ford Sierra Cosworth, I think, the discs. So if you've got a Ford Sierra, hopefully this will be of some use, because I go into great detail on the tool to use, what tools you need and everything. Now the front brake pads, I renewed them yesterday. Here's the old ones. And as you can see, I'll just use a bit of paper to grab them because it's still a bit dirty. But as you can see, there is tons and tons left on them. They didn't really need renewing. But the rear ones and the new shoes for the rear arrived today, so I've not yet done them. They're much easier to put on. They need replacing far more often. I've had the car now about 17 years. I've done about 30,000, I think, since I've had it. And I've replaced the rear shoes about 4 times. I have never done the front shoes. and there's that much meat still left on them. The car is set up all right. The brakes are perfectly balanced. When you do an emergency stop, you don't get a skid at the back. It's passed all its brake tests at MOTs and that. So I know that the brakes are functioning perfectly. But for some reason, doesn't use the front ones hardly. Doesn't eat into the material hardly at all. But since I was going to do a tutorial on the rear one, I thought I'd do them. But as it happened, they didn't need renewing anyway. But this video will show how to do it if you have to do it, because you do need a tool for the front ones that you don't for the rear. Like I say, on mine, the rear is off the BMW bike, dead easy. The front ones are the rear pads off a Sierra, the rear brakes off a Sierra, so they contain the mechanical handbrake, and that's what makes them a bit more difficult to push the piston in. But you'll see all that coming up. But I am curious about one thing. These pads, on one of them per pair, they have this little thing sticking out of them that I don't know what it is. There's a little thing with two spikes on it there. I'll show you under the overhead camera and explain in a bit more detail what I mean. So this is what I mean by that little probe. As you can see, there's only one pad per pair that has it. There's none on this at all. But it's like a little thing, two prongs. As you can see, it's sticking out. And I thought this bit here, this sort of like semicircular thing around it, was metal. But as I'm sort of scraping it, it seems to, you can cut into it as if it is brake pad material. But I'm curious why, I can understand some cars, I believe, have like a low wear indicator. As the pad wears down like this, it makes contact with a probe, which puts a light on the dashboard like, your brake pads need renewing. But I would have thought that would have been like a probe in that orientation, like a sort of a paper clip, if you can imagine, like that. So as the pad wears down here, it comes into contact with the probe there and there. But this is sticking out the side. So as the pad wears down, it's gonna, I don't know, it just seems weird that that far. Maybe it is, maybe that makes some sort of circuit in something, I don't know. But again, on that one, if you look at the angle it's at, that bit is sort of like quite parallel there. On the other one, it's at a much more acute angle. Look at the two together. So yeah, it's that's all I can think it is, but a strange way of doing it. I mean, on this bottom one, with it being like an angle like that, it's going to make sort of touch that one first before it touches that. But weird, it's not on the new ones anyway. So yeah, just curious about that probe. Like I say, maybe you can tell me in the comments if you know what it is and why is it orientated that way. Why would one be askew with angle? There's also things called squealers, I've read, that when your pads get down to a certain thing, they put a bit in that makes a noise to alert you that your pads are low and they need replacing. But it's not going to be one of them, a little sort of like two prongs thing. But anyway, it's a mystery. By the way, if you are interested, them overhead shots I shot on my Logitech Brio camera, which you can get online now because they're quite an old camera, for pretty cheap, and they make a fantastic overhead camera, 4K, and you can pick them up for like 50-60 quid. They're really, really good, do really good close-ups. If you want to check out a full review on that, setting up a cheap, very good quality overhead camera, check out my review of that. Yeah, I got my brake pads, the front brake pads. The rear ones, I get all my stuff from a great place called Motorworks that just do BMW bike spares. I've used them for years. They're pretty good. They've got most everything in stock. They're something like 22 quid for the pair, which is quite dear, really. I'll go into them in detail. I'm still waiting for them to arrive. So they're coming today, and I'll show them you in close-up before I put them on the car. But they're 22 quid a pair. These brake shoes that I got yesterday, and again, I've recorded a bit yesterday before I put them on, so I'll show you that soon with them close-up of the actual disc pads before I put them on and the details off the back. But these Frodo ones I got yesterday, I got from a local place called EK Brakes. It's just down the road from me. They've been going absolutely donkey's years. Here's their address up there. So if you couldn't get any online, that's all the details there, and they have brakes for just nearly everything. I went in and said, could you identify them? And he went through his book of all the different shaped pads and identified them as that. I then found them later online on eBay for £5 cheaper. But I used the information off this box to get the correct ones on, to show the correct ones on eBay. I will put a link in the description below. I can't even remember when I've got an eBay affiliation valid at the moment, but it might be an affiliated link, which means I get a small commission if you buy something from that browsing session. But yeah, so they cost me basically £5 more from my local dealer than online. But I don't mind that. I like keeping local shops going. It's not extortionate. And without the skill of the staff there identifying them, I'd have been lost. I wouldn't have known which ones. So, but that is the link to the correct ones that will fit a 1997 Grinnall Scorpion Mark II. So I'll show you that bit now of these. This is the old ones in here, as I've just shown you. And I'll show you all the details on them. Okay, so as I mentioned earlier, I've just put the new pads on one wheel. I wanted to get familiar with it before I filmed for this video the other wheel. So I did make a couple of mistakes. I'll go through that. I'm going to set up my camera and everything in a second and film me doing the other wheel. But before I do that, I thought I'd show you the new pads before I put them on. These are the old ones, obviously. These are the new ones. I'm going to hold the box up with all the details on for you in a second. But if you have a look at that. There's hardly any wear off the old ones here. Look how much is left. So the new ones are as you can see 13.16 millimeters thick, and the old ones are 11.96. So there's only like a couple of millimeters worn off them in all them years. And the brakes are set up properly. The balance things in its right way. It passes all its MOTs, and when the brakes are tested, and you just cannot turn them at all. So, but yeah, it's amazing how it goes through the back ones more than the front. But as you can see, these are the new ones, and they come with this little spring clip, just like the old ones. The only difference is on the new ones, there's these indentations in the back, and there isn't on the others. But you can see they're the same shape. They've got that same bottom lug. One difference is the old ones have got this split down the middle. It's like two separate pads. The new ones, it's all one solid pad. But other than that, you can see the shape is pretty much identical. And the metal side as well. And they do fit perfectly, can confirm that. So I'll freeze this frame I'll just get it in focus and freeze this frame, and you can take any details there. So that's all the part numbers on the part itself. And the box is there. There's a little QR code. All it does is get you to a website on a tool, automotive ink, DRV automotive ink or whatever. But again, there's some more details. And on the back, you'll see what it fits. Ford Granada from 85 to 94, Scorpio from 94 to 98, and Sierra from 82 to 93. My car's a 97 build. So that is, so they are Sierra or Scorpio pads. Again, all the details on that, even the barcode number at the bottom. So if you want to take the details off it. So that's it. And they were, again, I'll put the price again down here. They were £30 something or other. So the tools you'll need to do it are, all you need is a 13mm spanner, a 15mm spanner, the usual wire brush to clean up any dust, bit of brake cleaner or IPA or anything to clean up the general area. Obviously you've got to jack your car up, take the wheel off, so anything you need for that. But to take the bit off, you need to actually take off, all you need is a 13mm spanner and a 15mm spanner. But like I said before, you do need a special tool to wind the piston in. If you can imagine, you've got sort of like your disc there, and you've got a pad each side of it, and there's a piston. Some pads use a piston each side, some calipers use a piston each side. This uses just the one piston, and that pushes the pad against the disc. Now, if you can imagine, when they get pretty worn, which mine aren't, that piston has travelled out like another sort of quarter of an inch or so. So when you take your thin, worn out pads out, that piston is quite far out. You need to push that piston back. Now, on the rear one, you can't do it. It's been a while since I've done it. Like I said, I've changed them about 4 times, but it's been 3 or 4 years since I've done it. And I haven't done it yet as of filming this. I'm going to do it this afternoon when they arrive. I think you can just push it back by using a pair of grips. You'll soon see, but you don't need a tool. I know for a fact you don't need a piston pushback tool. But the front ones, like I say, with having the mechanical handbrake cable on as well, they're much harder to push back. So you do need a special tool. And this is it here. I got this from Amazon. I'll show you I'll show you now the one I got from Amazon, and some other ones available as well. So as you can see on here, there are absolutely loads of them. And if you look, they're all basically the same thing. Different coloured cases, all look exactly the same, all will be churned out of the same factory in China. This was the one I bought, this one in a red case. And it says 22 pieces, and if you count, there is 22 pieces. This one here, this blue one at the top, that says 22 pieces as well, but it's only 21. If you look round there, there's 4 pieces. On mine, there's 5. Not that it'll make any difference. You'll have the same number 7 in there that I used, but there are different ones. There's this one here. Got only 12 quid. I picked this because it was 16 quid. This was 21. This was 23. This was 20. So it was the cheapest of these like multi-sets, and they all look the same. These separate items here, they do look a bit better. They're nicely machined alloy there and knurled. And you can see they are just knurled, so it shows you just can hold it with your hand, as I point out in the when I'm actually doing it. You don't actually need a spanner there. But yeah, loads and loads. There's another nicely knurled one for a tenner. So like I said, that probably would have done me fine, but it takes your money, does your choice or whatever. Yeah, that's the one I got. You can see it's all the different bits. It shows it there in use, but you'll see it in real life in a minute. So yeah, just go for the one you want, the cheapest one on the day. So, like you saw there, I thought I'd get that one, this one. Probably the cheaper £7 or £8 one would have just done, but any vehicles I do it on, I changed my daughter's brake pads earlier in the year. I can't remember the front or back, but again, you didn't need one of these, but you might for the other set, I don't know. But I thought for another sort of £7, I might as well get the full set with the various adapters. So this is it. Careful no bits fall out. Because as with all these sort of like cheap sort of Chinese tools, the blown plastic doesn't hold them particularly brilliantly. It's not a professional set. A proper car mechanic doing this every day in a garage probably wouldn't use one of these, but for me doing it, well, probably never again. I'll never have to change these pads. I've had it 17 years and they weren't worn, so I'll never have to. So hopefully it was just a one-off use. But that's the thing. And what you do is you've got all these various adapters. Now, the one you'll need for the Scorpion or these Sierra shoes is that number 7. And you'll see in a minute that goes in, them two blips there go in like little channels on the piston and push it in, and these two holes are to fit this part, which is the winding in bit. Now you get 2 of these. I don't really know why. You get a left hand thread one and a right hand thread, which just means that you just, one you'll turn to compress the piston one way and one you'll turn the other. Well, doesn't really matter if you're left or right-handed. I'm quite capable of turning both ways, so I don't know. But what you do is you put this bit out of the kit over the handle, like that. And that then goes up against that lip there. And you screw this, screw it out a few threads to make it easier to see. That, it's hard to demonstrate here without having the caliper in my hand, but you'll see in a second. That holds itself behind one part of the caliper. You then tighten this up, and I found just by hand, in fact I found if you tighten it too tight, it's too hard to turn this, so just sort of hand tight seemed to be tight enough. And then you turn this in, and as you can see, as you're turning it in, that is turning round that end, and where are we? Then 2 pins go in there, and it's them 2 pins go in the actual piston itself. So you're winding it in like that, so you're pushing it back, making the gap big enough to fit your new brake pads in. And as you'll see, it takes some force. Sometimes you really got to sort of push it in, because you're pushing against sort of like the spring of the handbrake bit as well. If they haven't got that part, it's dead easy. As you see, the rear ones, it pushes very, very easily. And you push that in till your piston is as far sort of in as it'll go without it pushing back in too deep. And that is it, basically. You've then increased that gap and you can put your new pads in. So, yeah, that's all that set is. As I said, probably never to be used again. And like I say, you can get them for, there's a list comes with it. Can't place it at the moment, but there's a list with loads of different cars saying which adapter is for which. So, but number 7 I found was the one that I used. But yeah, like I said, probably dubious quality, but it seems alright. It did the trick, and yeah, so that's the one I got. Oh, and by the way, you may have noticed me little shirt. So for any regular subscribers, don't worry, I will be back doing reviews on Parkside and stuff like that from Lidl's as soon as something takes me eye. But I was there the other week and I bought this mainly because I've got some Lidl's trainers, which I think are quite nice, multicoloured red, blue, white and yellow Lidl coloured trainers. And when I wear them, my daughter goes mad when I go in the pub. Oh, Dad, look, my trainers are horrible. So I thought, sod it, I'll buy the full outfit. They had everything in there, shorts. I didn't bother with the shorts. I've got enough pairs of shorts. But I bought the shirt, which I actually quite like. I even bought the hat, the bucket hat, which makes me look like a right prat. Pity it's got all the Lidl's stuff on inside, but it's got the label there, so I can't turn it inside out. But got the hat, and I even got the Lidl's shell jacket. So put it on in the pub the other day just to annoy her, and walked in. She went absolutely mad. Anyway, back to this video. And one more thing, apart from the tools, I used that, where you get a metal to metal contact, like where the metal part of the pad sits against the piston or sits in its carrier. You can get a bit of sort of squealing sometimes. So they always used to recommend you use this. I believe that I've seen a couple of videos where they use a ceramic brake grease specifically for the task, but I've sort of used that in the past and it's been fine. So I use that in this video. Also, there's two sliding bits. You'll see sort of two sliding rods. I cleaned and greased them with this stuff. So, like I say, I know years ago they used to call it copper slip, and it's just it's a copper metal based thing which can stand high temperatures. So something like that, or the silicon brake grease, I would advise to put. You'll see me doing it, and it'll become evident where you put them. So, without further ado, enough waffling as usual. Let's have a look at me yesterday fitting the actual pads. Like I said, I set the two cameras up, and during the long, drawn-out bits where it's, ages taking a screw out or jacking the car up or whatever, I've speeded it up 1,000%. So when you see it going fast, I'm not going that fast. It's just to speed it up a bit to stop the video being too long. Okay, so I'm sure you don't need to be shown how to take the wheel off. So I'll speed this bit up. Obviously loosen these a bit before you jack it up. Okay, as you can see, I've got it on an axle stand as well. Never leave it just on a jack. So I'll reposition the camera and put an extra one in. Okay, so the two you need to remove are these two slider ones here. That one at the bottom, that one at the top. The mistake I made when I did the other wheel was I took these off, and then the whole assembly comes forward, including the carrier, and it's well, that's not the way you do it. So you'll need a 17mm spanner, sorry, a 15mm spanner to grab that nut there, and a 13mm spanner here. So just hold that nut in there, undo that, it's pretty tight. You'll see I've got the rag here ready to plop the assembly on, so it doesn't scratch your wishbones. You may want to support it with like a tie wrap as well around there, but I found I didn't have to. but obviously you've got to be careful not to kink this brake pipe here. And the big thick one is your handbrake, your manual handbrake cable. So take these two fully out, and you'll see these have got blue thread lock on them. So the blue thread lock there. And again, the same with this bottom one. This is a bit more awkward because your handbrake cable is in the way. But the nut does come out. So, again, blue there. As you saw, took longer the bottom one because it does catch on this rubber gaiter here for your handbrake. So, put them to one side. And your caliper now should come off. Double check you've got the handbrake off. Yeah, I should have took that off first. But it's off now. And then you just pull the caliper forward. The shoes come out, and like I say, plop this somewhere like that. You can see that it's not under any strain, the brake pipe. And again on these, a bit thinner than the other one on that side, I think, but still plenty of life left in them. But they're your old ones. So once you've got that off, check these slide things here do actually slide in and out, and check the rubber gaiters are in good condition. I'm going to just wipe that off, give it a bit of a clean, and then we'll grease them ready. So yeah, just a bit of brake cleaner or whatever, IPA, anything like that. Just get the muck off them. Worse. And they don't unscrew, these nuts. You could be turning them forever, but all you do is just pull that rubber gaiter off its mount. You may need a little screwdriver or whatever behind there. You should get it off with that, and then just pull it out. I'm just going to wipe the old grease off it. And I'm going to put some copper slip on it. Any grease I would think would do for this. I'll just pop it back in and pop the gaiter over. Make sure it goes all the way over, pings into place. Same with the bottom one. Suppose you could even use oil on it, but as long as there's some sort of lubricant, and check they move freely in and out. Again, once you've got the brake cleaner out, just give it a spray around, clean off with a wire brush or whatever. Get any dirt from there. And as you can see, the disc is like loose. It's only held on with the wheel, really. The discs. So get your new pads. So that's the pads there ready. You can see here my piston, because the pads have plenty of meat left on them, it's wound pretty far back, so I might even get away with not winding it, but I'll show you how this device works. Now, in the set that I bought, that I showed you before, it's number 7, adapter number 7. So that goes round the 2 bits there. And what you do is you put your number 7 disc on it, like that. You then have to position this plate here behind there. So you screw this down as far as it'll go. Get all the holes in lined. And then you screw this bit up here. You may want to use a spanner on this, but I found just hand tight was okay. And once you've got it hand tight, screw this in and it pushes the piston in. It's really hard to turn sometimes. You've got to sort of loosen that off a bit. And as you turn it, it sort of moves it around. Don't know whether you saw the rubber just go there. So like I say, you don't want this absolutely locked on solid, but I don't know whether you can see that actually sort of moving round now. So that's moved pretty far in now. Now I forgot to actually do it then, but what I should have done is, so now that's out, wind that back out, and that's now pushed your piston in. But these gaps line up with these little nipples there on the shoes, so you're best sort of putting a line here right in the centre, or where one of them gaps were, and make sure that is right round at that line, otherwise the little lugs don't line up with the shoes, the pads. So you may have to just get like a pair of grips and move the piston round, being careful not to break, to snag the rubber gate or whatever or anything, until that sort of cutout there is in line. Well, like I say, when you first remove it, mark it where it actually is, and then you'll know. So again, any cleaning up, it's pretty clean is this actually, but any dust, there's like a spring steel clip in here, but doesn't have to be absolutely spot on, but you can see there is some dust coming off. That's pretty clean, is that? So again, when you put your new pads in, just smear a bit of copper slip anywhere there's like a metal to metal contact. Obviously don't get any on the pad material itself, but a bit on the side there, a bit there, and they just go in your carrier here. Oops. With that up against there like that, and the other one. So you can see the two pads there pushed in. Whoops. And I forgot to tell you before, you get two new nuts, bolts with it, with thread lock ready applied, so you may as well use these new ones you get with it. So it's just a matter of offering up this assembly now, squeezing it over here. Right, now I'm trying to put it on, and the piston hasn't moved in enough, so I'm glad. Should it out, I thought I'd got it in enough, but I haven't. So I'll re-put the tool on it. And if we turn it round, it's now pushing it right the way in. So it turns it as it does it. It can be really stiff to turn, but it is going in. So hopefully that should be enough now. I don't know, you can see it's gone a lot further in. So hopefully that should now. Yeah, that's sliding over there now. So I'll put the 2 screws in, 2 new bolts. So this bottom one is more awkward because it's not as easy to turn. That's in now. You've got to really sort of push and get it lined up, but obviously don't cross thread it. And then do the top one up, so that's much easier. Okay, so that's it. Make sure they're fully tightened up. So check it's free to turn. Don't forget, no point in trying the handbrake now. We're going to go in the car and pump the pedal to get that piston back out to where it should be. So just pump the brakes. I know you can't see me now, but I'm in the car pumping the brakes. You'll notice the pedal goes down further at first because that piston's travelling, but just give it a few pumps. And that should have pushed it right out where it should be. And check, we've got, yeah, so still move, but it's stiffer obviously. It's not freewheeling, but I can move it just with my hand. So if we now try the handbrake, I should be locking it on. Handbrake on. Yeah, I can't move that. Absolutely cannot move that. Handbrake off. And again, you can move that without even the wheel being on. So it's just a matter of putting the wheel back on now. So obviously when you're putting the wheel back on, you've got to line up, just grip that bit there of the hub, because no doubt it'll have moved the flange. So make sure the holes are lined up, and I always put it at 12 o'clock, the top one at 12 o'clock. So yeah, stiff to turn, but that should sort of free itself off after a bit. I might not have the handbrake fully off. That's a bit better. Okay, it's just a matter of lowering it down now. So, that will stand out. So there you have it, job done. As shown earlier, I didn't need to do it. The pads were tons and tons left on and many, many more years yet. So, but I'm glad I did it just to put my mind at ease and, of course, to make this video. Now, yeah, nothing too complicated, only getting that bottom bolt out past the handbrake is the only awkward bit, as you saw. Now, I was going to make this an entire video doing the front and the rear pads, but it's already up to like 45 minutes or so. So I'm going to put this into two parts. So this is part one, just doing the front pads. And I'm going to do a whole new part two on doing the rear pads, because that's going to probably be about as long, maybe a tiny bit shorter, because I've just done them now this afternoon, dodging rain showers. And even though putting the pads in is dead easy, getting the wheel back on after is a bit of a pig. So I'm going to go into that. I've had trouble getting the wheel back. It's such a tight fit under the mudguard and between the exhaust. And on your own, it's with no facilities other than your backyard, it's not easy. So I've done a little alteration to the mudguard. So I want to show that as well. So that is going to be in a whole new part two. Only of interest again to Grinnall Scorpion owners or K1100, BMW K1100 owners. You won't have to do anything with the wheel like I did, but the actual replacement of the pads is dead easy. As you see, it's an absolute doddle. So like I say, if you're interested in that, I'll put a tile at the end of here for part two. I'll try and upload them both to YouTube together, but I might do part one first and then the other one a couple of days later or whatever. But there will be a tile at the end linking to part two. So hopefully I'll see you for that. I hope this has been of some use, especially to Scorpion owners and Ford Sierra owners. If it has, it'd be great if you could give me a thumbs up. It means give me a thumbs down if it hasn't been of any use. If you haven't already subscribed, again, would be fantastic if you could. Click the little picture of the shed here. Once you've done that, click the bell icon underneath and you'll be informed of any future uploads. So keep your eye out for part two. After that, I'll be back to my usual sort of tool reviews and stuff like that. Hope to see you for one of them. Bye for now.